They say American cuisine was born from European tradition, but in plantation kitchens across the South, it was something else entirely. Enslaved cooks created the foundation of what we call American food today. Picture this. It's August 1755, South Carolina low country. 100-degree heat. Kitchen fires burning anyway. Your hands blistering from hot iron. Your back aching from dawn labor. But tonight, the main house expects a feast. Rice nearly gone. You're stretched with techniques your grandmother taught you in West Africa. These weren't crude plantation meals. These were culinary masterpieces born from brilliance under bondage. Thomas Jefferson documented these dishes in his notes. George Washington's records mentioned them. Mary Randolph's cookbook copied them. Today, I'm taking you back. When American cooking wasn't about European refinement, it was about African ingenuity, indigenous knowledge, and survival transformed into art. Stay with me. These 20 forgotten recipes tell enslaved cooks' real culinary legacy. Number 1. Red rice. Keseah's children were hungry in July 1758, Georgetown County, South Carolina. Rice stored for the planter's table. Scraps and broken grains left for enslaved families. Keseah remembered her mother's dish from Senegambia. She took broken rice grains, others considered waste. Keseah soaked the rice in water, washing it 3 times until the water ran clear. She heated her iron pot over the fire, adding bacon drippings saved from breakfast scraps. In went chopped onions, cooking until soft and translucent. She stirred in tomatoes garden surplus the main house, didn't want watching them break down into thick red sauce. The rice went in next, each grain coated in that crimson mixture. She added water carefully, the exact ratio her mother taught her. Salt, pepper, a bay leaf from the kitchen garden. The pot simmered low and slow, rice absorbing every bit of liquid, turning deep red, filling the cabin with savory aroma that made mouths water. During rice cultivation season in the Carolina Low Country, enslaved workers knew rice agriculture better than any planter. West African rice-growing knowledge built the colony's wealth. This dish honored that expertise. Rice wasn't just food, it was cultural memory cooked into every grain. Broken rice becoming something glorious. Plain grains transforming into dishes worthy of celebration. Red color symbolizing both tomato richness and blood. Sweat, tears poured into every harvest. Each spoonful carried history. Keseah's red rice spread through enslaved communities from Georgetown to Charleston. Kitchen knowledge traveling cabin to cabin, recipe becoming Charleston's signature dish, though few credited its true origins. White cookbook authors later claimed it as Charleston rice. Every grain carried a message. Survival transforms scraps into heritage. Resilience simmers memory into sustenance. Innovation turns what others waste into what families treasure. Would you cook your family's history into every meal, knowing it might be erased? Drop a comment. I'm reading every one. Number 2. Hoppin John. Black-eyed peas and rice. That's it. Mix them together in a pot with water until peas soften and rice swells. Add whatever meat scraps you can find. Ham hock, bacon ends, salt pork, fat. Let it bubble and simmer until peas turn creamy and rice becomes tender. Season with salt, pepper, maybe a pinch of red pepper if you're lucky. The smell fills your cabin, rich and earthy and promising. Sarah made her first batch in January 1803, Edisto Island, South Carolina. 7 people in her family, only dried peas and rice remained after Christmas. This dish fed them for 3 days straight. Nothing fancy, pure survival. In January 1800 South across the low country, when winter stores ran low, enslaved families needed protein and carbohydrates from shelf-stable ingredients. Hoppin John became New Year's tradition eating. It meant good luck, but really it meant not starving through January. Cooking together created complete protein, peas and rice, combining what each lacked alone. Simple ingredients providing lasting energy. One pot cooking meaning less firewood needed, less time at the stove, more time resting exhausted bodies. Sarah's recipe spread through New Year's gatherings, in praise houses and cabin yards. Survival food becoming celebration tradition. Everyone eating Hoppin John on January 1st, hoping for better days ahead. Simplicity sustains life. Basic ingredients combining into something greater than their parts. Survival cooks hope from peas and rice. If you're still watching, you're tougher than most. Hit like if these survival stories hit different. Number 3. Gumbo. Before 1780, West African okra stews with fish and greens. After arriving in Louisiana, July 1780, okra, sassafras, shellfish, whatever the bayou provided. Enslavement transformed ancestral recipes into something entirely new. September 1785, when French and Spanish cuisines dominated New Orleans. Hercules faced feeding 20 enslaved workers after a grueling harvest day. Traditional ingredients gone, Gulf seafood abundant, sassafras powder available from Choctaw traders. He reached for okra seeds brought from Africa, not the vegetables he knew. Something new in strange land. Necessity made it magnificent. Hercules picked okra from the garden plot behind the quarters, the pods still tender and green. He made roux in his iron pot, cooking flour and fat together slowly, stirring constantly until it turned deep brown, almost burning but not quite. That nutty aroma filled the air. He added onions, celery, bell peppers, the Trinity, chopping them fine, letting them soften in the dark roux. Then came the okra, sliced into rounds, its mucilage thickening the pot naturally. Shrimp from the morning's catch went in next, their shells making the broth rich. He added water, sassafras powder for earthy flavor, bay leaves, thyme, cayenne pepper for heat. The gumbo simmered for hours, flavors melding together, okra breaking down, creating that signature thick consistency. Rice cooked separately, served underneath, soaking up every drop of that complex, layered stew. During Louisiana's early colonial period, enslaved cooks merged West African, indigenous, and European techniques. Okra from Africa met sassafras, from Native Americans met French roux. This fusion created Louisiana's signature dish. Gumbo represented cultural survival through food. Okra stew was simple, one note, comforting. Gumbo was complex, layered, challenging the palate. But gumbo fed more people, stretched further, used local ingredients. Adaptation tastes like necessity, transformed into art. Hercules's gumbo spread through New Orleans' enslaved communities, each cook adding their variation. File powder instead of okra, chicken instead of seafood, dark roux versus light. After emancipation, gumbo became Louisiana's pride, served in finest restaurants. Enslaved cooks' innovation became state identity. Every spoonful carried a message. Diaspora creates new traditions from old knowledge. Survival stirs memory into something unprecedented. Fusion transforms loss into flavor. Would you have adapted like Hercules, created something new from what you lost, or held tight to old ways even when they couldn't sustain you? Drop a comment. I want to know how far you'd go. Number 4. Fried chicken. In June 1789, Monticello, Virginia, James Hemings returned from France with refined cooking techniques. His fried chicken wasn't Scottish, shallow frying. It was West African palm oil frying, meets French culinary precision. The American fried chicken was born in enslaved hands. James Hemings cleaned chicken pieces in cold water, patting each one completely dry with cloth. He soaked them in buttermilk overnight, a trick he learned before France, southern wisdom about tenderizing tough birds. The acid broke down proteins, made cheap chickens taste expensive. Next morning, he mixed flour with salt, black pepper, cayenne pepper, dried herbs in a wooden bowl. He heated his cast iron skillet with lard, testing temperature with a bread cube that sizzled and browned in seconds. Each chicken piece got dredged in seasoned flour, coating completely, shaking off excess. Into the hot fat they went, one piece at a time, grease popping and crackling. He turned them once, golden crust forming, meat cooking through until juices ran clear. That incomparable aroma of fried chicken filling the kitchen. In Plantation, Virginia, during the late 1700s, enslaved cooks controlled chicken coops as small private enterprises. Chickens meant rare protein and occasional money. Frying in hot fat was West African technique. European Americans typically boiled or roasted chicken. This method created crispy coating, juicy meat, complex flavor profile. Scottish frying was pale, mild, boiled taste chicken with thin coating. African-influenced frying was golden, crispy, deeply seasoned with layered Caesars, but enslaved cooks' version traveled further, impressed plantation owners, became requested specifically. Excellence forced recognition, even from those who denied their humanity. James Hemings's fried chicken became Thomas Jefferson's favorite dish. From Monticello, The recipe spread to other plantation kitchens, enslaved cooks' trading techniques and modifications. After the Civil War, formerly enslaved women sold fried chicken to train passengers, turning survival skill into business. It became iconic American food, though credit rarely went to its creators. Every bite carried a message. Excellence survives even in bondage. Skill commands respect even from oppressors. Mastery fries technique into transcendence. Number 5. Collard greens with potlicker. Dinah's family was weakening in March 1812, Alabama Territory, made rationed to bare minimum. Bodies needed sustenance for field labor, but collard greens grew wild in every garden patch, and Dinah knew their secret power. She gathered collards from the garden, each leaf broad and dark green. Dinah filled her largest pot with water from the well, setting it over the fire to boil. She added a ham hock, mostly bone, barely any meat, but enough to flavor water. While water heated, she washed collard leaves 3 times, removing every bit of grit and dirt. She stripped thick stems away, tearing leaves into manageable pieces. Once water boiled hard, in went the collards, batch after batch, wilting down as they hit hot liquid. She stirred occasionally, watching greens darken and soften, added salt, black pepper, a splash of vinegar to cut bitterness. Hours passed, greens breaking down, potlicker, that Minaruch cooking liquid, churning dark and savory. By evening, collards were tender enough to melt on the tongue, and potlicker was thick enough to sustain life. During early 1800s across the South, when enslaved people received minimal meat rations, families needed nutrients from whatever grew freely. Collards provided iron, calcium, vitamins. Potlicker contained every mineral that leached from leaves. Children drank it like medicine. Bitter greens were punishment to unpracticed palates. Cooked collards with potlicker were nourishment disguised as comfort. But collards grew when nothing else would. Survived frost, needed little care. Survival tastes like bitterness transformed into sustenance. Dinah's method spread through enslaved communities from Virginia to Texas. Long cooking technique, ham hot flavoring, vinegar brightening, potlicker save for cornbread sopping. After emancipation, collard greens became soul food staple, Sunday dinner tradition, holiday requirement. What kept people alive became what brought families together. Every leaf carried a message. Gardens provide even under oppression. Patience simmers bitterness into nourishment. Survival boils resilience into tradition. Number 6. Black-eyed pea fritters. Before 1795, black-eyed peas boiled plain for sustenance. After learning indigenous cooking methods, August 1795, peas mashed and fried into fritters. Cultural exchange transformed simple legumes into celebration food. January 1796, when winter stores dwindled in Georgia Piedmont, Abigail needed to feed 15 people for a wedding celebration, with only dried peas remaining. Fresh vegetables gone. Creativity or hunger, no middle ground. She reached for black-eyed peas soaked overnight. Not celebration food. Desperation ingredient. Necessity made them special. Abigail drained the soaked peas, ground them with a mortar and pestle until they became rough paste. Some whole peas remained, giving texture. She added chopped onion, minced garlic, whatever herbs grew near her cabin. Maybe sage, maybe thyme, salt and pepper. One precious egg to bind everything together. Her hands mixed it all, forming small patties, each one flattened slightly. In her cast-iron skillet, she heated fat rendered from previous meals, saving it for exactly this moment. The fritters went in, sizzling immediately, edges crisping up golden brown. She flipped them carefully, both sides getting that perfect crunch. The smell was earthy, savory, promising. They came out crispy outside, tender inside, protein-rich and filling. During late 1700s Georgia, when enslaved communities held rare celebrations despite circumstances, weddings, births, holidays, needed special food, black-eyed peas were everyday sustenance. Fried fritters elevated them. This transformed commodity crop into communal celebration. Plain boiled peas was soft, mushy, filling but forgettable. Fritters were crispy, flavorful, memorable enough for celebration. But fritters used the same cheap ingredient, required minimal additional resources. Joy fries from whatever you have. Abigail's fritters became her signature dish at community gatherings. Women asked for the technique, adding their own variations: hot peppers, different herbs, smaller or larger sizes. The recipe traveled through oral tradition, never written, but never forgotten. Today, black-eyed pea fritters appear on New Year's menus and Juneteenth celebrations, connecting past to present. Every fritter carried a message. Celebration finds ways, even in bondage. Creativity fries desperation into joy. Community shares techniques that lift spirits. Would you fry celebration from everyday ingredients? Create special moments from ordinary supplies? Drop a comment. I want to hear your food memories. Number 7. Okra soup. Cuffy brought okra seeds from West Africa in August 1720, hidden in his hair during the Middle Passage. Those seeds became South Carolina's secret ingredient. His soup became plantation staple, though few knew its origins. Cuffy harvested okra from his small garden plot, the pods young and tender, not yet tough and woody. He sliced them into rounds, their mucilage already visible on the knife. In his pot, he started with water and whatever meat he could get, usually chicken backs or fish heads, parts nobody else wanted. The pot bubbled as he added the okra, watching it release that thick, viscous liquid that would become the soup's signature. Tomatoes went in next, crushed by hand, their juice mixing with okra slime. Onions, chopped fine. Corn, cut fresh from cob. The soup thickened naturally, okra doing its ancient work. He seasoned with salt, pepper, whatever dried peppers he'd managed to grow. Hours of simmering, flavors melding, that gumbo-like consistency forming, turning simple ingredients into something that would stick to your ribs and keep you working. In early 1700s Carolina Low Country, when West African agricultural knowledge was making planters wealthy, enslaved workers cultivated crops with techniques Europeans didn't understand. Okra was one thriving in southern heat, providing vegetables when others failed. His soup represented cultural continuity through food. Okra's sliminess repulsed European palates initially, but okra's thickening power made soups filling without expensive ingredients. Over time, okra soup spread from enslaved quarters to main house tables. Necessity changed minds. Cuffy's okra soup traveled through coastal communities, each cook adapting it. Seafood versions near the coast, chicken versions inland, vegetable-only versions when meat was scarce. By 1800s, okra soup appeared in white Southern cookbooks, credited to traditional Southern cooking with no mention of African origins. That viscous, filling soup fed the entire South. Every bowl carried a message. Seeds carry culture across oceans. Knowledge survives even when people suffer. Tradition simmers memory into sustenance. Number 8. Sweet potato pie. Before November 1830, sweet potatoes baked plain, survival food for enslaved families. After a plantation Thanksgiving, November 1830, sweet potatoes transformed into pies for enslaved cooks' own celebration, taking masters' techniques, making them their own. December 1830, when Thanksgiving leftovers included pie pans and spices, temporarily accessible. Mary needed to create celebration for her children using only sweet potatoes from their allotted garden plot. Wheat flour rationed, butter non-existent. Resourcefulness or disappointment, she reached for sweet potatoes stored under her cabin. Not pie filling, poverty food. Determination made them dessert. Mary boiled sweet potatoes until they turned soft enough to pierce with a fork. She mashed them while still hot, their orange flesh smooth and steaming. Into that went whatever sweetener she could find, maybe molasses, maybe sorghum syrup, no refined sugar. She added spices borrowed from the main kitchen, cinnamon, nutmeg, just a pinch, an egg, beaten, to bind it, milk, if she was lucky, or water if not. For crust, she mixed cornmeal with lard and water, patting it thin into a pan. The sweet potato mixture poured in, smooth and thick and promising. Into the fire's heat it went, baking until the filling set firm, the top developing tiny cracks, the smell sweet and spicy and hopeful. That pie meant more than dessert. It meant dignity. During antebellum South, when enslaved people observed holidays in their quarters while cooking feasts for plantation families, creating their own celebrations required ingenuity. Sweet potatoes were allowed crops, grown on personal plots. This pie transformed survival crop into celebration. Pumpkin pie was master's dessert, made with expensive spices and white sugar. Sweet potato pie was enslaved families' answer, made with what they grew themselves. But sweet potato pie was richer, more complex, distinctly their own creation. Pride bakes at high heat. Mary's sweet potato pie became Christmas tradition in her community. Other cooks refined it, adding vanilla, using better crusts when possible, perfecting the spice ratio. After emancipation, sweet potato pie became soul food dessert, competing with pumpkin pie at every Thanksgiving table. Many families still argue it's superior. Every slice carried a message. Dignity creates celebration from scraps. Pride bakes from whatever you grow. Tradition transforms survival crops into heritage. Number 9. Cornbread grits. Cornmeal, buttermilk, water. Mix cornmeal with buttermilk until it forms thick batter. Add pinch of salt, maybe baking soda if you have it. Heat your cast iron skillet smoking hot with lard or bacon grease. Pour batter in, listen to it sizzle and pop. Bake until edges turn golden brown and pull away from pan. That's cornbread, crispy outside, tender inside, soaking up pot liquor like it was made for it. Priscilla made her first batch in April 1825. Mississippi Delta. 12 people. Only cornmeal remained after spring planting exhausted food stores. This cornbread fed them morning and night for a week. Nothing else. Pure, staple. In April 1, 820 South across cotton country, when wheat flour was plantation luxury, enslaved families needed bread from corn, the grain they harvested but rarely benefited from. Cornbread became daily sustenance, breakfast, dinner, supper. Every meal included it. Mixing together created alchemy. Buttermilk's acid reacting with baking soda, creating lift. Hot skillet creating crust. Simple chemistry providing texture. One skillet feeding many mouths with minimal ingredients. Priscilla's recipe spread through Delta plantations, each cook adding variations. Some used all buttermilk, some mixed with water, some added a little molasses for sweetness. Technique staying consistent. Hot skillet, quick baking, crusty bottom. Simplicity sustains generations. Basic staples, combining into daily bread. Survival bakes necessity into tradition. Number 10. Brunswick stew. In February 1828, Brunswick County, Virginia, Jimmy faced impossible task. 20 enslaved workers returning from timber cutting, exhausted and starving. Kitchen nearly empty. Squirrels recently hunted. Corn from last harvest. Tomatoes preserved from summer. Could he create something? February 1828, when winter supplies ran dangerously low and spring planting hadn't yet begun. Jimmy needed to stretch ingredients designed for 10 people to feed 20. Innovation or hunger, there was no choice. He took the squirrels his sons had trapped. Not enough meat, gamey and small. A necessity multiplied them. Jimmy skinned and cleaned the squirrels, cutting them into pieces, every bit used. He browned them in his largest pot, with a little fat, getting color on the meat first. Then came water, enough to cover everything, bringing it to a hard boil. He added corn cut from dried cobs, tomatoes from preserved jars, onions, lima beans he'd saved. Whatever vegetables remained went in potatoes, if available, okra, if not. The stew simmered for hours, squirrel meat falling off tiny bones, vegetables breaking down into thick mixture. He stirred in cornmeal to thicken it further, making it more filling. Black pepper, salt, bay leaves for flavor. By evening, the stew was thick enough to stand a spoon in, rich and hearty, and stretching far enough to feed everyone. Nobody left hungry. During late winter in Virginia timber country, when enslaved laborers worked grueling hours and needed maximum calories, small game provided protein, corn and tomatoes added bulk. Stew format stretched everything further. Brunswick stew represented mathematical survival, dividing scarce resources to feed many mouths. Squirrel alone was barely a meal, small, lean, not very filling. Brunswick stew was substantial, rich, memorable enough to become regional specialty. But stew used the same small game, just made it matter more. Necessity stews scarcity into abundance. Jimmy's Brunswick stew spread through Virginia and North Carolina work camps. Enslaved cooks shared the technique: brown meat first, add everything else, thicken with cornmeal, simmer until thick. Different regions added local variations: chicken instead of squirrel, different vegetables, varying thickness. By 1900s, Brunswick stew appeared at church, suppers, and political rallies, credited as traditional Virginia stew, with origins conveniently forgotten. Every bowl carried a message. Multiplication comes from technique, not quantity. Generosity stews from seeming scarcity. Community shares what little it has, somehow making it enough. Would you have shared your last ingredients to feed 20 people? Or protected what was yours for your own family? Drop a comment. I'm reading every one. Number Sablas. Before June 1815, rice cooked plain as everyday starch. After Spanish German ended up in enslaved cooks' hands, June 1815, rice transformed into jambalaya, leftovers becoming Louisiana's signature dish. July 1815, when Louisiana was newly American territory, cultures colliding in New Orleans. Baptiste was handed ham scraps from Spanish merchant's table, expected to create evening meal. Rice abundant, vegetables limited, creativity required. He reached for broken rice and ham ends. Not fine ingredients. Scraps. Innovation made them legendary. Baptiste diced the ham into small pieces, rendered the fat in his iron pot, getting every bit of flavor. The fat melted golden, bits of ham crisping up. He added onions, bell peppers, celery, the holy trinid, chopping them roughly, letting them soften in that ham fat. Garlic went in next, minced fine, cooking until fragrant but not burnt. Then came the rice, stirred to coat every grain in fat and flavor. He added tomatoes, crushed by hand. Water or stock poured in, enough to cook the rice, but not too much. Bay leaves, thyme, cayenne pepper for heat. The pot simmered, rice absorbing liquid and flavors, plumping up, turning reddish from tomatoes. Everything cooked together, one pot meal, rice becoming creamy and rich, ham pieces scattered throughout like treasure. During early American Louisiana, when Spanish, French, African, and indigenous foods merged into something new, enslaved cooks in New Orleans created fusion cuisine from leftover ingredients. Jambalaya combined Spanish rice traditions, French cooking methods, African species. This represented culinary innovation under constraint. Plain rice was survival, food boring, filling, cheap. Jambalaya was celebration complex, flavorful, special enough for gatherings. But jambalaya started from those same plain ingredients, just transformed through technique. Necessity simmers scraps into feasts. Baptiste's jambalaya spread through New Orleans enslaved communities and free people of color. Each cook made a different seafood instead of ham, chicken when available, vegetable only when meat was scarce. The technique stayed consistent: brown protein, build flavor, cook rice in the pot. By 1900s, jambalaya became Louisiana's pride alongside gumbo, served at every celebration. Credited to Creole cooking with African origins, often minimized. Every spoonful carried a message. Fusion creates something greater than its parts. Resourcefulness transforms leftovers into legacy. Innovation simmers memory and necessity into tradition. Number 12. Hush puppies. Cornmeal, onion, water. Drop them in hot grease. Mix cornmeal with diced onion and enough water to make thick batter. Seasoned with salt, maybe a little black pepper. Heat fat in your skillet until it's smoking. Drop spoonfuls of batter into that hot grease. They'll sizzle and puff up, turning golden brown and crispy. Fish them out when they float. That's hush puppies, crispy outside, soft inside, perfect for sopping up anything. Moses made his first batch in March 1845, Alabama fish camp. Men returning from river with catfish, exhausted and hungry. Cornmeal left. Grease from frying fish still hot. These hush puppies kept men working through sunset. Nothing fancy, pure fuel. In March 1840 south across southern fish camps, when enslaved workers processed catches for market, long hours meant quick food needed. Cornmeal was abundant. Hot grease available. Hush puppies provided calories, fast fried in minutes. Eaten immediately. Energy delivered instantly. Mixing together created efficiency. Thick batter fried quickly. Small size meant fast cooking. Hot grease created crispy coating that preserved soft interior. Mathematics of survival: maximum calories, minimum time. Moses's technique spread through fishing operations and riverside work camps. Drop the batter by spoonfuls. Keep grease hot. Fry until golden. Simple enough that anyone could do it. Filling enough that everyone wanted more. Simplicity feeds urgency. Speed creates sustenance. Survival fries necessity into energy. If you're still watching, you're learning what history classes skipped. Hit like if this hits different. Number 13. Benne wafers. Before August 1740, Sesame seeds pressed for oil, food value ignored. After enslaved cooks discovered seeds' flavor potential. August 1740. Benne wafers became Charleston's delicacy, waste product becoming luxury treat. September 1740, when Charleston's rice economy created sesame seed byproduct from oil production. Juba was given barrels of leftover seeds, considered worthless, sugar rarely accessible. Creating treats seemed impossible. She reached for those sesame seeds everyone else discarded. Not ingredients, industrial waste. Ingenuity made them precious. Juba toasted sesame seeds in a dry skillet, stirring constantly, watching them turn golden and release that nutty aroma. She managed to obtain small amount of butter, melting it with brown sugar, probably molasses-based, not refined. The mixture bubbled and caramelized. She stirred in toasted sesame seeds, coating each one. Added flour, just enough to bind it, a pinch of salt to balance sweetness. She dropped tiny spoonfuls onto a flat metal sheet, pressing them thin with the back of a spoon. Into the fire's heat they went, baking until eddies darkened and centers bubbled. They came out crispy, delicate, thin enough to see through almost. The flavor was butterscotch-like, nutty, complex, something that tasted expensive from ingredients others threw away. During colonial Charleston's rice and indigo prosperity, when cash crops created industrial japones, sesame seeds were pressed for oil, spent seeds considered useless. Enslaved cooks saw value where owners saw waste. Benne wafers represented transforming refuse into refinement. Sesame seeds alone were bitter, hard, unpleasant to eat raw. Benne wafers were sweet, delicate, sophisticated enough for plantation society events. But wafers started from those same worthless seeds. Genius bakes from what others discard. Juba's Benne wafers became Charleston's specialty, served at tea parties and weddings. White society loved them, demanded them, never questioning their origins. Enslaved women sold Benne wafers in Charleston markets, one of few ways to earn money. After emancipation, Benne wafer recipes passed through generations, remaining Charleston's signature cookie. Today, they're sold in fancy gift shops, often without acknowledgement of who created them. Every wafer carried a message. Value exists where others see waste. Refinement grows from resourcefulness. Excellence transforms cast-offs into treasures. Number 14. Pickled watermelon rind. Celia's family watched September 1852 watermelon rinds pile up in Virginia's summer heat. Enslaved workers ate watermelon flesh for hydration during harvest. Rinds discarded. Waste multiplying daily. But Celia saw food others missed. September 1852, when summer harvest meant brief abundance before winter scarcity. Celia needed to preserve anything for months ahead. Sugar rationed strictly. Vinegar available from apple fermentation. Creativity required. She collected watermelon rinds others threw away. Not food. Garbage. Vision made them valuable. Celia trimmed away the hard green outer peel and any remaining pink flesh, leaving only white rind shint. Cut it into uniform squares, each piece about bite-sized. In her largest pot, she made brine vinegar, whatever sugar or molasses she could get, water, salt. She added spices. She'd dried herself cinnamon stick, cloves, allspice, berries, maybe a slice of ginger root if she was lucky. The brine boiled hard, spices releasing their fragrance. She packed watermelon rind pieces into clay jars, poured hot spiced brine over them, making sure every piece was submerged. The jars sealed, sitting in her cabin for weeks. The rind absorbed those spices, turned translucent and soft, transformed into sweet tart spicy pickles that tasted nothing like their origin. During antebellum South, when enslaved families received minimal rations requiring extreme preservation skills, summer's abundance lasted weeks. Winter's scarcity lasted months. Every scrap needed saving. Watermelon rinds were agricultural waste with hidden potential. These pickles represented seeing food where others saw trash. Fresh watermelon was summer's brief blessings, sweet hydrating, gone quickly. Pickled rind lasted all winter. Tart's spicy, complex flavor profile. But pickled rind came from what everyone discarded. Resourcefulness pickled waste into sustenance. Celia's pickled watermelon rinds spread through enslaved communities as preservation knowledge. Women traded techniques for different pickles, cucumbers when available, green tomatoes, even green beans. Pickling extended summer into winter. After emancipation, pickled watermelon rind appeared at every church supper, considered delicacy rather than desperation. Still made today by families who learned it from grandmothers, who learned it from great-grandmothers, who learned it in bondage. Every jar carried a message. Waste is perspective, not reality. Preservation creates abundance from scarcity. Ingenuity pickles possibility from what others discard. Would you save what everyone else throws away? Seafood in garbage. Drop a comment. I want to know your preservation tricks. Number 15. Peanut soup. Before October 1790, peanuts fed to pigs, considered animal fodder. After enslaved cooks from West Africa introduced peanut soups, October 1790, peanuts became Virginia plantation delicacy. Pig food becoming high society. November 1790, when Virginia Plantation Society demanded sophisticated cuisine and looked down on African foods, Usay was expected to create impressive soup course. Limited ingredients, unlimited expectations. He remembered groundnut stew from Ghana. He reached for peanuts grown for pig feed, not human food. Animal fodder. Memory made them elegant. Say roasted peanuts in a pan until fragrant, then ground them with mortar and pestle into thick paste. In his pot, he melted butter, probably the most expensive ingredient he had touched that day. Added flour, made roux, cooking it until golden and nutty, swirling, slowly whisked in chicken stock, keeping it smooth, no lumps. The peanut paste went in next, stirred until dissolved completely, turning the soup creamy and beige. He seasoned with salt, white pepper so no black specks, showed maybe a tiny bit of cayenne for depth. The soup simmered gently, flavors melding, peanuts creating richness usually achieved with cream. He served it smooth, garnishing with chopped peanuts on top. That soup was velvety, complex, sophisticated. Nobody in the dining room guessed it started as pig food. During late 1700s Virginia, when plantation society pretended to European refinement while enslaved cooks did actual cooking, peanuts were West African crop, brought during slave trade, initially rejected by European palates. Enslaved cooks' knowledge elevated peanuts to haute cuisine. This represented culinary brilliance, disguised as subservience. Peanuts for pigs were crushed, raw, bitter. Peanut soup was refined, smooth, elegant enough for society's dinners. But soup started from those same dismissed peanuts. Excellence, purees, prejudice, into acceptance. Usay's peanut soup became Virginia's specialty, requested specifically at fancy dinners. Thomas Jefferson served it at Monticello. George Washington's Mount Vernon served it. White cookbook authors published recipes, claiming it as Virginia peanut soup with no mention of African origins. Today, peanut soup is considered traditional Virginia colonial cuisine, sold at Williamsburg, served at historic sites. Its true roots often unmentioned. Every spoonful carried a message. Sophistication comes from knowledge, not ingredients. Excellence transforms contempt into admiration. Genius purees animal fodder into delicacy. Number 16. Crackling bread fat, cornmeal, salt, buttermilk. Render pork fat until you get crispy cracklings and grease. Mix cracklings into cornmeal batter with buttermilk and salt. Pour into hot skillet. Bake until brown and crusty. That's crackling bread, every bite containing crispy pork bits. Cornbread structure. Pure satisfaction. Samuel made his first batch in January 1858, Tennessee Hill Country. Hog killing day meant brief access to pork scraps. Only cornmeal and buttermilk otherwise available. His crackling bread turned necessity into indulgence. Nothing wasted. Everything valued. In January 1850 south across the South, when winter hog killing provided rare meat access for enslaved families, fat and organ meats usually went to quarters, while choice cuts went to main house. Enslaved cooks maximized every scrap, rendering fat, frying organ meats, saving cracklings. Crackling bread elevated poverty rations to something craveworthy. Mixing together created alchemy. Pork fat enriched cornmeal. Cracklings added texture and protein. Buttermilk provided tang. One pan delivering complete satisfaction from minimal ingredients. Samuel's crackling bread became winter tradition across Tennessee work camps. Women saved cracklings specifically for this purpose. Though bread meant hog killing had happened, breathed protein abundance in winter scarcity. Simplicity creates celebration. Scraps combine into something greater. Survival bakes waste into feasts. Number 17. Red beans and rice. Before April 1805, beans boiled plain, rice cooked separately. After Monday wash days created all-day cooking need, April 1805, red beans and rice became New Orleans tradition, laundry dictating cuisine. May 1805, when Monday meant dawn-to-dusk laundry labor in New Orleans. Celeste needed dinner that cooked itself while she scrubbed clothes. Beans and ham bone from Sunday. Rice, always available. Time was luxury she didn't have. She reached for dried red beans and yesterday's ham bone. Not a recipe. Necessity. Time constraints made it tradition. Celeste soaked red beans overnight. That much she could do Sunday evening. Monday morning, she dumped beans and ham bone into her pot with water, bringing it to a boil. Added onion, bell pepper, celery, the trinity, all chopped rough because speed mattered. Garlic, bay leaves, thyme, cayenne pepper, salt and black pepper. The pot bubbled and simmered all day while she worked. Beans broke down, becoming creamy, almost dissolving into thick gravy. Ham bone released every bit of flavor and collagen, making the liquid rich. By evening, when laundry was finally done and hung, those red beans were perfect, thick, rich, complex. She cooked rice separately, fast, serving beans ladled over top. The combination was filling, flavorful, exactly what exhausted bodies needed. During early 1800s New Orleans, when Monday wash day was grueling, all-day labor for enslaved domestic workers, food needed to cook unattended. Red beans required long simmering but little attention. Ham bones from Sunday meals were available. This dish represented time management under oppression. Beans alone were bland, mushy, forgettable. Red beans with rice were Louisiana's comfort food, rich, satisfying, distinctly regional. But the dish was born from having no time to actively cook. Necessity simmers into tradition when repeated every Monday. Celeste's Monday red beans spread through New Orleans, working communities, enslaved, free people of color, eventually everyone. Monday became Red Beans Day across the city. After emancipation, Creole restaurants served it Monday. Today, New Orleans still honors Monday red beans tradition in fancy restaurants and home kitchens alike. A dish born from wash day became cultural identity. Every bite carried a message. Constraints create traditions. Time pressure simmers into ritual. Necessity becomes culture when embraced by community. Number 18. Biscuits and gravy. Before December 1820, biscuits were luxury for plantation houses only. After enslaved cooks received flour, scraps and meat drippings. December 1820, biscuits with gravy became Southern breakfast, masters' leftovers becoming workers' sustenance. January 1821, when Carolina winter meant hard labor starting before dawn. Ruby needed breakfast for field hands heading out in freezing cold. Flour scraps from biscuits she'd made for main house. Sausage drippings from yesterday. Could she create something sustaining? She reached for those flour scraps and grease, not breakfast. Kestoff's hunger made them legendary. Ruby worked flour with lard, cutting it in until mixture resembled coarse crumbs. Added buttermilk, stirring just until dough came together. She patted it out on a floured board, cut rough circles with a tin can. The biscuits baked fast in hot oven, rising up fluffy, tops browning. Meanwhile, she took yesterday's sausage drippings from the pan, heated them back up, whisked in flour making roux. It browned and smelled rich. She added milk slowly, whisking constantly, breaking up sausage bits that remained in the pan. The gravy thickened, turned creamy and speckled with meat. Salt, lots of black pepper. That gravy was peppery, rich, pure comfort. During antebellum South, when enslaved workers needed maximum calories before dawn field labor and winter cold, biscuits provided carbohydrates. Gravy provided fat and protein. Combined, they delivered sustenance that lasted hours. This breakfast represented making abundance from kitchen scraps. Plantation house biscuits were light, buttery, delicate. Workers' biscuits with gravy were filling, practical, built for hard labor. But workers' version used leftover flour and meat drippings. Resourcefulness creates fullness from scraps. Ruby's biscuits and gravy became Carolina morning staple. Enslaved cooks across the South made versions, some with ham gravy, some with bacon, some with just flour gravy when meat was scarce. After emancipation, Biscuits and gravy became iconic Southern breakfast, served in every diner, considered comfort food, working-class dish that fed millions. Every plate carried a message. Scraps become sustenance through skill. Leftovers transform into legends. Survival feeds multitudes from casp. Would you create feasts from drippings and flour scraps? Turn yesterday's waste into today's breakfast. Drop a comment. I'm reading every one. Number 19. Peach Cobbler. In August 1835, Georgia peach orchards. Violet faced summer's cruel irony. Peaches ripening by hundreds while enslaved workers starved on inadequate rations. She picked those peaches all day for market. Her family tasted none. Until bruised fruit to mark a bill became available. August 1835, when plantation economy meant growing food you couldn't eat. Violet was handed basket of damaged peaches, expected to dispose of them. Flour existed in kitchen. Her children deserved sweetness. Innovation or defiance, maybe both. She reached for those bruised peaches, not treats, damaged goods. Love made them dessert. Violet cut away bruised parts from peaches, sliced the good flesh, let it sit with whatever sugar or molasses she could find. The fruit released juice, macerating. She made biscuit dough with flour, lard, buttermilk. Same technique as breakfast biscuits, but with a little sugar added. In a pan, she spread the peaches, all that juice pooling around them. Dropped biscuit dough by spoonfuls across the top, not covering completely. Into the fire's heat it went, baking until biscuit topping turned golden brown, peach juice bubbling up around edges. The smell was summer itself, sweet peaches, buttery dough, caramelizing sugar. That cobbler came out bubbly and golden, fruit tender, topping crisp on top and soaked underneath. Her children ate something that tasted like hope. During slavery's Georgia peach economy, when enslaved workers cultivated fruit for others' profit, perfect peaches went to market, damaged peaches went to quarters. Cobbler represented creating dignity from damaged goods. Mothers made treats from what masters considered waste. Peach pie was delicate, refined, required perfect fruit. Peach cobbler was rustic, forgiving, accepted imperfect fruit. The cobbler delivered same comfort, same sweetness, same summer joy. Motherhood bakes love from whatever's available. Violet's peach cobbler spread through Georgia's enslaved communities. Women saved damaged fruit specifically for cobbler. The dish meant summer survival, sweet moments in bitter lives. After emancipation, peach cobbler became quintessential Southern desert. Served at every gathering, made by grandmothers teaching granddaughters. From damaged fruit came Southern's most beloved dessert. Every spoonful carried a message. Imperfection creates beauty through care. Damage transforms into sweetness. Love bakes dignity from what others discard. Number 20. She crab soup. Before March 1810, crabs boiled whole for picking. After Charleston's enslaved cooks discovered roe's richness, March 1810, she crab soup became city's signature. Female crabs creating culinary distinction. April 1810, when Charleston's society demanded sophisticated seafood dishes, Harriet was given female crabs less meat than males, considered inferior. She needed to create something impressive. Male crabs already used elsewhere. Female crabs with orange roe were what remained. She reached for female crabs everyone else rejected. Not preferred ingredient. Second choice. Wisdom made them special. Harriet picked crab meat carefully, keeping all that orange roe, separate, precious, and delicate. In her pot, she melted butter, added flour, made blonde roux. She whisked in milk and cream, luxury ingredients she rarely touched, making it smooth. The crab meat went in, and critically, that orange roe, which turned the soup golden and added rich, briny flavor, impossible to achieve otherwise. She seasoned with salt, white pepper, maybe a splash of sherry if the main house allowed it. Little bit of Worcestershire sauce for depth. The soup simmered gently, never boiling, keeping it smooth and velvety. It thickened naturally from roe's richness. She served it with tiny crab roe garnish on top. That soup was luxurious, complex, unmistakably Charleston. During early 1800s Charleston, when seafood abundance met emerging Southern haute cuisine, male crabs had more meat, preferred for crab cakes. Female crabs had less meat, but roe, that was the secret. Enslaved cooks understood roe's value. She crab soup represented recognizing hidden worth. Regular crab soup was good, creamy, pleasant. She crab soup was exceptional, golden, irreplaceable. The RO made all the difference. Excellence comes from understanding what others overlook. Harriet's she crab soup became Charleston's most famous dish, served at every important dinner, requested by visitors. The city's finest restaurants featured it. White society claimed it as Charleston tradition, rarely mentioning enslaved cooks who created it. Today, she crab soup remains Charleston's culinary calling card. Sold in fancy restaurants, shipped nationally, its origins in enslaved women's kitchen, often forgotten. Every bowl carried a message. Value exists in what others dismiss. Excellence recognizes potential where others see limitation. Genius transforms second choice into first class.